this is Judy of Divina Cucina, and today I'm going to make eggplant parmesan, Melanzane alla Parmigiana. I already started a little bit here, I don't know if you can even see that, let me see. Yeah, you can see the can. Working with eggplant can be kind of difficult. Often I think people are afraid of working with eggplant because of all the preparation that they tell you to do. And usually if you do use something in season, it's much fresher and lighter. And so I'm using this size eggplant, and I like to cut them widthwise. Now I'm going to talk about today 6 million ways you can make eggplant parmesan. People from Sicily say it's Sicilian, and the word Parmigiana does not mean the cheese, but rather it means, it's the word they use, Parmigiana with a C, is the word to describe the shutters on the windows in Sicily. I have Napolitano versions of this, and I just got back from Puglia, so I'm going to do kind of the light Pugliese version, which I really liked. Let me just split these eggplants here in a minute. So there's all different kinds of versions. People say peel your eggplant, don't peel your eggplant, peel it with strips, salt it, soak it in salt water. But I don't think in the beginning of the season there's hardly any seeds at all. If you can see this. Okay, so I don't even bother when my eggplant's this beautiful and light to do that. But you can layer them with salt, about half an hour. I use a sea salt or a kosher salt. And then lightly rinse them off and press them dry. And the way I'm going to do mine today is a light version where they're floured and then dipped in flour and then beaten egg. Okay? So these now are my little eggplant slices. Let me just show you. So it's almost creating a little crepe batter on here, okay? Instead of, I think usually I'm used to seeing the breaded and fried with breadcrumbs, which makes it even thicker. Some people don't like to fry them at all, so they say to grill them or to do them in the broiler. I don't think it really matters, but I think this version that I did like this came out really, really light. Now, even with the version from Puglia where they flour and fry them, so see, I just got sitting over here my little plate where I just lightly floured them and then egged them, and I'll just keep going here. I'm going to do 2 of these eggplants, and then I'm going to bake them in the oven for about 40 minutes, layered, with tomato sauce and grated Parmesan cheese. This is my new little clay pot I got in Puglia from the Samarelli family at Rutigliano, and this will make like 4 portions. So my husband and I can have it twice. That's what we do. And then on the side here, I just have a little 1 small can of tomatoes, which I broke up. And I'm just going to add a little bit of basil. You can do what they call a sugo finto and saute like a little onion first, and then add the tomato, tiny pinch of salt, and then basil right at the very end. So this isn't really a cooked sauce because we're going to be baking it later. I don't know if you know, but they don't really cook tomato sauce to make pizza either. When someone's going to finish in the oven, then they usually don't cook it, pre-cook it. So you're going to have your fresh kind of canned, pureed, lightly, just barely cooked passato di pomodoro, pureed tomato sauce just with a touch of basil. We have I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to just take these. I have a plate of flour, and you just barely touch them. And then I have just a lightly beaten egg. And again, they're just dipped. It's so simple. And then I put that on a plate waiting to be cooked. So it's little assembly line here that's really pretty easy to do. Like I said, I was going to do 2, but this eggplant today is really kind of big. So I wonder if I just need 1. When I made it the other day, it was, oops, I didn't do that first. When I made it the other day, I used 2 eggplant, but I think they were smaller eggplant. So we'll see. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's like 12 slices. So if you think of this, it's almost like layering it up like lasagna. Just a second, I'm going to rinse off here. Another thing that people can fight about is what goes in your eggplant parmesan. So I like to keep mine really light. So I just do the tomato sauce and Parmesan cheese. It's almost like the farther south you go, the heavier it gets too. So you can just keep it with the tomato and Parmesan cheese. But like I said, you can go a Naples version, a Sicily version, and a Pugliese version. Some people, of course, will put mozzarella in it, and you can shred mozzarella in it on top, and that will make it heavier. Ciao, Norma. Oh, I don't really have a schedule. It's just when I feel like cooking something. Unfortunately, I don't have a schedule. So I'm going to now flip these, just letting them get a little golden here, and then you can, when you're putting your fork in, actually, you can feel how tender the eggplant is getting. I used to hate eggplant, and now I love eggplant. So I think there's just the ways that people used to cook that maybe I didn't like it. So anyway, so you can do the tomato sauce and mozzarella in Naples. It might be like a caciocavallo. Puglia, I have a friend, his name is Don Pasta, and he kind of does like performance cooking. He's a disc jockey and does these shows. And he talks about his grandmother's eggplant parmesan, and it has meatballs in it, hard-boiled eggs, and he says like a chiffonade of mortadella. And then you usually always cook your eggplant parmesan ahead of time, and then you would eat it like room temperature. It's easier to cut, and it kind of doesn't, slide all apart, which is really nice. So that's kind of like the maximum of the heavy. I remember another one of my friends used to do it's kind of like the same idea of lasagna. Lasagna from Naples could also have wedges of hard-boiled eggs, meatballs, the mozzarella cheese. So by substituting, your eggplant or pasta, they make these big layered dishes. When my girlfriend, whose family was from Naples, would do her lasagna, after it was all assembled and everything, she would beat an egg and throw the beaten egg on top. And that helped also to keep the whole thing together. I think that's a little excessive, but that's one thing. I know a lot of Italian Americans online, I've heard a lot of people complain that Italians complain that Italian American recipes are not Italian recipes. Well, the truth of the matter is that there's no Italian recipes. We have all regional recipes, and even within a region, that could change every 20 kilometers. If you think about it, in the old days, probably a lot of the people didn't read or write. There weren't a lot of cookbooks, and people just cooked with what they could find and what was nearby. So I think it's fascinating. When I go to Emilia-Romagna, if you start in Bologna, the basic ravioli filling there is ricotta with chopped parsley. And as you go farther west to Reggio Emilia, it'll finish where it's almost all spinach, dark green and hard, but it's still got ricotta in it. So it goes from being white to being dark green, and every shade in between every like 10 kilometers, which is great. You never kind of know what you're going to get. And we have regional raviolis too. Like there's the one in the hills of Tuscany that's quite famous, that really you have to go up into the hills to get it, and it's a potato-filled ravioli, which I absolutely adore. And they're called tortelli, which usually means they're a larger ravioli. What else was I going to tell you about this? Yeah, so I think it's really hard sometimes. You won't go to order something and you never really know what you're going to get. One of the other traditional things that I always tell people, most Italian Americans, I think, the majority are from Naples or from Sicily. And if you go to a trattoria here in Tuscany and you order a bracciola is a paper-thin slice of beef, just barely seared in a skillet, made with garlic and olive oil, almost like a breakfast steak, something even thinner than that. Well, if you see bracciola and you're from Naples or Sicily, you may think of this huge, big, rolled stuffed beef, hard-boiled eggs, mortadella, ground beef, slow cooked for hours in a tomato sauce. That's a bracciola. They're both bracciola. You just have to know where you are when you go to order it. So I think it's being aware of regional cooking is the fun of it, but also it can also be a surprise. Sometimes not so great. So I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Maybe I'll do a few more. So another one of my things which I like to do. Oh, and did you know that eggplants were originally white? Sometimes when you look under the stems, you'll see little white areas. And now I see the white ones coming back on the market again too. Eggplants were, this is kind of a new world cuisine, that eggplants were probably brought from the Arabs to Italy, probably first to Sicily, and the major port towns. I like to use a bread knife to cut my eggplant. And that way I saw it, and I could saw it really kind of thinly. And on my website, one of my favorite recipes is a grilled marinated eggplant. And I have a recipe from a Sicilian friend of mine, and I love it. Garlic, olive oil, white wine vinegar, and mint, which is really, really beautiful. Mint is used a lot in Sicilian cooking, which I really like. So see, I'm getting nice thin slices, okay, which are really fabulous. We'll see how many more we need here. The rest I could just do grilled, actually, which I really like. So, because I'm not doing, I don't have to prepare anything else, just my tomato sauce and these little fried eggplants. So again, I just flour and fry them, no breadcrumbs. If I was doing breadcrumbs, usually flour, egg, and then breadcrumb. That's going to make it even a little bit heavier. This really comes out almost like a crepe kind of batter around them. And it's very, very delicate. So the major thing is, like later in the season, if you have to salt the eggplant and do that first, that takes you a little bit longer. Okay, so for this 1.5 eggplants, this took me 2 large eggs to batter them. Okay, they're just getting nice and golden. So this is also something you could, because it's summer, right? Eggplants are a summer vegetable too, and it's so hot. Today we're very lucky because it rained a little bit, so it cooled off. To turn off my heat, is that you could fry the eggplants in the morning and assemble it, bake them, and then serve it later in the evening at room temperature, which is really nice, instead of having to fry and do everything when it's really hot, or wait till it's cooler in the evening. So I just have a plain little clay pot. You could do this like in a lasagna pan. Depending on like the size of your pans, which is why I did this too, you could also have sliced them lengthwise and then done them in a lasagna pan. Hi George, hi everybody else. I haven't been close enough to read what's going on. So I'm just going to start here with the little tomato and basil at the bottom so it won't stick. And then I have my grated Parmesan cheese. And I'm just going to start layering, however many fit in the bottom here, really without trying, I'm not going to try to overlap them really, but just have them be next to each other. Okay, and then I'm going to keep going. And just a tiny bit of tomato sauce. Spread it with the back of your ladle there, and then Parmesan cheese. You can be kind of generous with that, instead of the mozzarella. And if you wanted to, this is where you would put your mozzarella cheese on. You could also then have tons of basil right here. My husband really loves basil. You can also come and then just put a little extra basil in between. And it makes it even more summery. Then we're going to keep going. And I kind of like to alternate where I put those eggplants so they touch the other sides. Kind of big. Okay, more tomato sauce. I'm preheating my oven right now, so I can just throw this in the oven when we're done here. More Parmesan. I'll keep going with basil. Look how huge these basil leaves are. These are like gigantic. Hi Susan, how's Texas? Okay. So yeah, in basically, and the regional cheeses you could add in here. Like I said, they do one that's like a cacio, they call it cacio cavallo. That's like almost like a firm aged kind of mozzarella kind of thing. Okay, and I'm going to press these down now, so they really kind of create layers. Okay. So I just used one small can of tomato. This is 1.5 really large eggplants. They were, you can see the size of my hand. This is a half of one now, so they're really, really huge. More Parmesan. And more basil. The first time I was here and I cooked with Italian ingredients from an American recipe, I actually threw up because the basil was so strong, the olive oil was so strong. So I think one of the other things that's, I'm going to cut this one in half, make it fit better, that's also kind of hard to do is to imagine what the real flavors of the ingredients are from another place. I don't know if you've ever tried to do, Chinese cooking or Japanese cooking or any other foreign countries. All of our ingredients taste different, which then, change it. So you can get as close as you possibly can, but if you've never used like tomatoes that have never been in the refrigerator, we're very lucky. We can go twice a week to a farmer's market, and if any of you have cooked with me, you've met Erica. She's actually my farmer's daughter, and sometimes they've picked things at 4 or 5 in the morning, and we're buying them at 8 o'clock, and then we'll come and cook with them and eat them. So there's nothing like being able to buy food that just came off. Oh, look, I forgot to cook those. Let me just finish these up. Just realized that. Okay. I'll put this one cut in half because these are so big compared to my pot. I've got another recipe which I really love, which I learned at the community gardens here. I went down and there's this old guy that he's always there working, and I love to go take pictures down there. And so I was down there taking pictures, and he gave me a big round violet eggplant, and he gave me a recipe. And he's from he's from Naples or Sicily, but he told me to peel the eggplant and then 2 thick slices. I'm sorry, the phone call is just coming in there. So I don't know if you heard me, but we have a violet eggplant which someone gave me, and I'll put a link under this for a sandwich where it's 2 big thick slices of the violet eggplant with ham and cheese in the middle. Then it's floured and fried, and it's like a little vegetarian kind of, it has ham, but using, let's say, eggplants instead of bread. We also have a really good recipe that's mozzarella in carrozza, which would be 2 slices of like white bread with mozzarella in the middle. They egg it, breadcrumb, and fry it. Okay, I'm going to finish these last slices off here, and then I'll sneak them into my pan, and my pan will be full. So that would be it was an eggplant and a half here. So that was perfect. So as you can see how I'm really layering this up, I'm going to take it all the way to the top here. You don't have to, but because I have the eggplant, I'm going to. Just keep adding a little bit of basil. Okay. And I really love this without the mozzarella cheese. I think sometimes cooked mozzarella cheese can get really gummy or heavy. So it's really nice. And upstairs in the Florentine market right now, in Mercato Centrale, we have an artisan market. And they're just bringing in the fresh buffalo milk from Maremma. We have a farm now in Maremma that's raising water buffaloes, so we can get fresh water buffalo cheese twice a week pulled. Hey Karen. No, this is a terracotta dish, and all I had to do was to soak it in water overnight. And then these pots you can use in the oven or on top of a flame tamer, actually on my stovetop. So in Puglia, and especially, and in where I live in Tuscany, we use a lot of clay pot cooking, and if I can, I love using my clay pots. They're for a slower cook, so like stews are really nice, cooking my Tuscan beans. They're beautiful because then it goes to the table in the pots, which are so nice. So this is just perfect. I'm really excited. So yeah, remember, we're going to cook this, and it takes about 45 minutes, and then I'll let it cool before I serve it. So it's always a good idea to make this ahead of time. Something nice. And I'm just pan frying, not deep frying. So this is just got about that much, and I'm using a vegetable oil and not olive oil. There you go. So you can see it's a very quick cook, and then these are also going to be baked. So let's just put this in here. Put that in the middle right there, and we'll cut these to go around the outside edge. Okay. And then we're going to cover them with the last little layer. Look how perfect that is. Last little layer of tomato sauce, Parmesan cheese, and basil, and it's going in the oven for 40 minutes. Everything's really pretty much cooked already, so this is really just, so I'm not using really any salt with this. I barely salted the tomato sauce. I didn't salt the eggplants after I fried them, which you could also have done. I tend to go a little light on all that. I like just the fresh kind of flavor. Okay, look at that. And the last, this is just perfect. So it's nice to finish with the cheese, because then you get that crusty melted cheese top. And again, another little bit of basil. When I'm at the pizza places in the Central Market now, I've noticed that they put the basil under the tomato sauce so that the basil doesn't burn. It's kind of cute. Okay. So here is my eggplant parmigiana ready to go in the oven. Okay, and then I'll just, you guys probably saw the photos from last week because everybody asked to show me how to make the eggplant parmesan. So let me know if you make it. Post your pictures, share my this Facebook Live video thing. I eventually put everything you know on my YouTube channel, which is Divina Cucina. And thanks a lot for following along. Ciao for now.